This moves to a topic that's pretty important. I hear it with a lot of the men I work with, and so we're going to discuss the concept of jealousy. You talk about energy, so that the feminine is an energy. So maybe a man sits and eats a delicious steak, and it's like, oh my God, this is just wonderful steak. And his woman may be with him, and she might go, are you enjoying your steak? And there doesn't seem to be any jealousy in that. And yet a beautiful woman walks by, and he looks over, and even if he were mostly clean or all clean, and went, what a beautiful woman, just went, breathed her in, and then turned back to his steak and his woman, we're talking a lot of problems. Not all women, and I know in my personal relationship I would not have that problem. Perhaps I'm lucky, and I know that would be the case with you, Suzanne, and your man. But most women are automatically hurt right there. The jealousy's gone off. Everything's gone off, and it seems like the men have created that by being oinky and piggy. Like, oh my God, I want to fuck her. Oh, sorry, honey. But even when they train themselves to just look over and go, that's beautiful. We're dealing with an issue, that jealousy that becomes, that like the man almost has to pretend that the beer doesn't taste that good, the steak doesn't taste that good, and that waitress isn't that hot.
Well, I think that jealousy is a mixture of two emotions, and it's a mixture of fear of loss, and it's a mixture of anger. So it's those two emotions actually together. And I think it's really important for whoever is being jealous to separate out those two emotions. So the first emotion, which is always the biggest one, if you're a woman, is fear of loss, which is, oh my gosh, he's looking at her. Is he going to dump me for her? Am I going to lose something? I'm going to lose something. That's the fear. It's like, I'm going to be abandoned. And that's a core fear, because women, they need that safe container in order to open. And so if they suddenly feel a man's emotional attention, especially, go in another direction, they have a fear that they're not going to get what they need in order to be fulfilled. The other thing is anger. Now, what's interesting is that most women don't recognize that the anger is actually with themselves. So they actually project it onto the man, but oftentimes the anger is with themselves. It's like, well, why am I not good enough? It's actually like, why am I not pretty as her? Or, and then they get angry, but they're angry at themselves. And oftentimes, again, we're talking about the open and the closed feeling, that the reason he's looking is that, you've been closed off in some way. And when a woman has done the embodiment practices a long time, like Jennie and I have done it for years, what you recognize is that every woman is beautiful, and every woman has a right to be beautiful, and every woman is supposed to be light. So it's ridiculous for you to think that flavor of light is any better than my flavor of light. And it's also about trusting your masculine, that he loves light and he's going to enjoy all those lights, but that light, his penetration is always going to come back to you, and trusting that in your core, that you recognize that you happen to be the flavor of light that he likes best above all things. So it's also that place where women have to step out of that comparing to another woman. And so I'm jealous of her beauty, or her thinness, or her hair, or, her money, or whatever. And it's a jealousy factor that way too. It's like she's comparing herself to another woman.
I was thinking just the other day, I don't know a man who is successfully at opening women who is not voracious for the feminine. You just don't see neutral guys sitting back going, whatever, and able to open their women to depths that you were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think, to add on to what Suzanne was saying about it too, there's this masculine component about it too, where you could have a feminine who is, very well practiced, is totally open, but, also sensing moment by moment in her man where something wobbles. Mm-hmm. And, and I've seen that as well, where, there's just a moment that the look is a little too long, or the head goes forward a little too much, or something in that regard. So the other piece of this for men to recognize is that women are, remove all everything that's in the way, right? Remove all the self-judgment and the betrayal, and if you could wipe all of that clean and just have your woman be the perfect oracle, and then be aware of where the wobble is, and and listen to that in your woman, and sometimes it can come out in a way that you're like, okay, well, that's not, your lens isn't totally clean, and that's fine. But you also have to be aware that your woman is, she is that GPS. She's going to be aware of that wobble, and she's gonna feel it. And so I think there's that other piece too. But in my mind, this question is so complex because there's so much, it's turtles all the way down. It's just everything's so much stacked on top of one another to get to the purest essence of this question, assuming that both are completely in integrity, totally clean, totally pure, then of course a man, enjoying the feminine in a very clean, impeccable way, and a woman being with him while he enjoys that feminine in a very clean, impeccable way, that's a very beautiful thing. It's it's kind of like the beginning of your question. If you're enjoying a steak, your partner shouldn't want to stab you in the head because you're enjoying a steak. So it's kind of going from that very clean, impeccable way, and then going back through a series of okay, where are we actually at? And if you actually realize that your partner has a closure around that type of behavior, then of course you have to proceed very cautiously, and then maybe it's not you watch her walk across the restaurant, but in a moment you just kind of see her, breathe it, let it go.
Well, it could work in reverse too, couldn't it? If you were sitting at the dinner table and you perhaps said to your man, look at that man, he's got so much presence, he's just so there. Or the one that would probably really get the men would, look at that man, he has so much more money than you do. So let's go back to something you were talking about, which was that little head thing coming forward with a little bit too much, the stare lingering too much. Can that happen to you with your man? Can your man lean in a little bit too much to you? Can he over penetrate on you and get a little lost in your magic and zero down, say, on your breasts or your eyes or your ass, and you feel him get lost in that as well?
Oh, absolutely. The masculine can definitely become lost in the feminine. And, as the feminine, I don't prefer that. So if a man becomes so lost in me, all of a sudden he's lost his whole structure, he's lost the container, we've lost everything. So really what I feel like is that I've kind of overwhelmed his senses, and now I'm holding him versus him holding me. So, as a man is with a woman, to be very aware of what he's doing, even just bodily. If it's this lean in thing, that's like you're diving into something, which means you're going to get lost in the water. So, it's maintaining this very strong structure bodily, so that you're not getting totally lost in the feminine, because then really she's won, right? She's become the big maw, she's become the earthquake that's swallowed you whole, and she doesn't want to feel like she can do that. She wants to be the big earthquake, and then you're even bigger to hold the earthquake, and that's what she wants